Do you remember a time when learning was fun? Yeah, I don't either. I went to public school. All right, let's bring back the joy of learning through homeschool, and I'm going to tell you how. Hi, I'm Cheryl Daly, and I am host of the Homeschool How-To Podcast, interviews with homeschoolers. I never thought I would be homeschooling, but 2 years ago, I said, I don't think the public school system is for us. So I set out on a journey to interview homeschooling families, and I'm here to tell you everything I have learned over the last 2 years interviewing over 100 homeschooling families, all in this nice little neat video. No, this is just about one topic, but this is what I have learned about the joy of learning through homeschool. So let's go. So do you remember a time that learning was actually fun? Like before textbooks, tests, and rigid schedules? Maybe, yeah, in like kindergarten, preschool, they were fun. I don't think kindergarten, preschool are like that anymore though. So let's bring back the joy. Learning should be fun, exciting, meaningful, and connected to real life, which is why I think it's so hard to do in school. Not only is it all connected to a test, but it's not connected to our real life at all. It's not relevant. So nobody wants to know about it. Let's talk about why homeschooling makes learning come alive for the whole family, not just those kiddos. I'm learning way more than I ever did in school, and it's so fun. All right, learning becomes personal and meaningful. You can explore what truly interests you and your kids. This is the best part. There's no more learning just to check a box. Your child gets to deep dive into topics that they actually care about. I know you think that by the end of first grade, they should know XYZ, and the end of third grade, they should know XYZ, but I got a secret to tell you. They don't need to know any of that. Okay, like they give tests in certain states, not even all of them, and the test is given at home, okay? So like you proctor it and then you send it in. So when they say you have to know your multiplication tables by age, whatever, it's not exactly true. Like they don't come and take your kid from you because they don't know the multiplication, okay? It doesn't happen in school because there's many kids that don't know their multiplications or how to read by certain ages. So it doesn't have to happen at home either. You can just teach what interests your child. So if they love animals, learning about habitats can include science, geography, and even storytelling. How beautiful is that? All right, you model a love of learning. Your kids see you excited to learn, and it makes them excited too. When you're curious and engaged, it naturally sparks their own curiosity. Learning happens when the brain is ready. Okay, so no more forced learning at an arbitrary time. Kids learn when they are cognitively ready. And that is so true for my son. I've been trying to banter and pester phonics into his little head, and he's just not there. He's just not ready. So all I can do is expose him to story and read to him. And when it comes, it will come. And that's okay. That's why we're homeschooling. So when you let them learn when they're cognitively ready, it will lead to a better understanding and retention of the subject. Reading comes when they're ready rather than when the curriculum dictates it, okay? It's just going to be so much more enjoyable when you remove the barriers of, their peers are reading by this age, so therefore my son or daughter must be reading by this age too, or else I look like a bad parent. That is your insecurity. They will get there. You know why I know they'll get there? Because you love them and you care. So you're not going to let it fall by the wayside, but you don't have to drill it in them either. Just read to them. Okay, let's move on. Learning through real world experiences and hands-on exploration. It's hard to do this in the school setting, but in homeschool, it's everything. Ditch the dry textbooks and learn by doing. Experiments, projects, and real-world applications, they make learning stick. So an example would be studying the moon. You can, instead of reading a paragraph about the moon, go outside every night and track its phases together. You can watch videos on this, documentaries. There's all sorts of stuff on YouTube. You can get out children's books about the moon and do experiments in your house. It's such a cool way to learn. Blending subjects naturally. This is really awesome because you can take a whole bunch of subjects and blend it into one topic so they all mesh together. Homeschooling lets you connect history, science, literature, and math into one seamless topic. So an example would be if you're studying the moon, you can do the science part of it by looking at the phases of the moon, tides, gravity. Then you can incorporate history with how ancient civilizations tracked time. Then you can incorporate literature by doing a moon-themed story or looking at myths about the moon, like maybe it's a satellite. Maybe Neil Armstrong never walked on it. Or you can use math by tracking patterns and lunar cycles. Making it all connect this way really solidifies the concept for your kids and you. Okay, let's be real. All right, you can also learn through stories. Stories make information memorable and enjoyable. This is why I love the Tuttle Twins books, because they put everything in story. So when we read the Tuttle Twins, we read it to understand economics and history in a way that sticks and is like relevant to our life right now. I can't talk about them enough. I love their stuff. I learned more reading Tuttle Twins books than I ever did in 12 plus years of public education and college probably. All right, learn by experience, not by memorization. Instead of reading books about history, visit historical sites or reenact historical moments at home. And instead of doing worksheets, you could cook a historical meal, build a model, or create a hands-on project. Learning happens anywhere, anytime. So no more being stuck at a desk. Learn wherever it makes sense. So the kitchen table, the backyard, on the road. We do this a lot when we're driving. I'm always talking about what this sign says or the way we're going, what this highway means, if it's north, south, east, or west, which way are we going based on where the sun is in the sky. Also, I have a map pulled up usually because I never know how to get anywhere. And, we'll talk about the minutes it takes to get there or hours and, kind of subtract how long it's been since we've been driving. You can learn at the park, at the library, anywhere. So you can also go down learning rabbit holes. This happens to us a lot. One question can spark a whole adventure, and you have to be open to that. That's the way your homeschooling is going to be the most memorable for you and for your child. So for example, if your child sees the moon in the daytime and asks, why is the moon out in the daytime? You can say, well, that satellite's been there. No, I'm just kidding. You can just observe it daily. You can read books and watch the documentaries. You can do hands-on experiments, like we did one where we had a clementine on a pencil and a flashlight, and we went in a dark room, and your face is the earth. You were the earth. You're holding out the pencil with the clementine on it, and the other person is on the other end with the flashlight, and you rotate around with it a little bit over your head. So this is showing you how the moon is waxing and waning each night and where it is in its phase. Car rides are perfect learning opportunities. You see a historical marker, pull over and learn about it. Do you want to know what we did the other day? We had read a book. It was Christmas time, actually. We read a book about a man that whittled, made things out of wood. And later that day we went on a play date, and on the way back, I saw a man whittling, making wood statues. And I drove by and I said, you know what? I should stop and ask him if we can watch. And I turned around and we did. It's his business. They wouldn't let him build a structure on it. So he said, basically, I'll show you. And he put his business there, and people drive to Vermont every day and stop and pick up eagles and owls and bears that he's carved, and it's like a pretty lucrative business, which was fun too, because on the way home he told us how much he sold every weekend and how much he charges. So my son and I were doing the math, and I said, this is a cool job. If you wanted to learn how to do this one day, this could be your job. Like, this is a job somebody has. And, that's part of it right there. Just learning about all the different jobs that are out there, or at least learning that there are jobs you could create like this. So yeah, that was fun. I was like, am I really going to pull over and just ask this stranger questions? But that is the joy of homeschooling. You have the time and the ability and the craziness to do it, because they already think we're nuts. They think homeschoolers are crazy anyway, so you might as well live up to it. All right, if you drive past a construction site, you can go talk about engineering and physics. You don't have to go up to them. You can just learn about it through a book or a video. If you pass by a farm, you can discuss agriculture, food production, and nature cycles. So learning just really happens everywhere, and get the courage up to go ask people too when you have questions. Learning is fun when it's not about a test. I can't talk about this enough, how horrible tests are for the psyche, for anxiety, for just the sheer, that's not what learning is about. So when you remove the tests, there is no pressure and no stress. You're just learning for the sake of learning. Imagine that. Instead of memorizing facts for a test, kids can learn because they're curious and engaged. They retain information longer because they actually understand it. Discovering knowledge naturally creates lifelong learners, and that is what we really want. Kids don't just learn for school, they learn for life. Homeschooling lets them develop a love for learning that will last forever. When learning is fun, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like an adventure, and that's what we're doing here as homeschoolers. That's why we're doing this. I mean, yes, maybe there's a lot of other reasons, that we're homeschooling, but this should be up there close to number one on your list. You are creating a lifelong learner, you're creating bonds that are gonna last forever, and you're creating someone that's thinking outside of the box because they have the time to stop and pull over and ask that man, why are you whittling a bear right now? How in the cold? I need a fire going. It was such a cool job. Just sitting outside with a fire, whittling a bear. And he's getting like $300. But the point is that learning should be fun and engaging, and that's why we do it, right? Okay. All right, if you found this video useful at all, please like, subscribe, share the content, and hit that notification bell so that you know about my upcoming content. And check out the Homeschool How-To podcast, interviews with homeschoolers, if you'd like to hear real life, day in the life of a homeschooler doing whatever they do all day. Probably pull over and talk to strangers too. All right, have a great one. Thank you for checking out this video. I'll see you soon.